Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Arianna Campbell. Arianna, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here.
All right, Arianna, as many of you know, is one of our shareholders as well, as a consultant that specializes in process improvement, among many other things. So we have a topic today around process. And, Arianna, you and I have been in multiple firms over the last month or two. And I think every firm in some shape or form is talking about how do we create more of a one firm approach by breaking down process silos. We've been in firms that are just a single office firm that say that. We've been in firms that have many, many offices that say that. So why is it important, especially as firms look to grow, become even more relevant to their clients, better leverage their team and capacity? Why is it so important for firms to create a one firm approach?
I think it's important to have a one firm approach because it allows you to have more opportunities for growth, better opportunities for client service. But what I think the interesting trend has been is really how firms are approaching getting to that one firm approach, especially when it comes to process. So historically, process improvement has been looked at by, let's look at the tax process and, let's look at the audit process. And sometimes, firms will maybe only look at one or two of those core processes, or maybe they'll look at each of them, but usually it's individually, right? Through the lens specific to that department or that area. And what firms are finding now is that in order to really move towards truly being one firm, you need to have integration of those processes instead of separate processes existing in silos. This is important for two reasons. Well, I would actually say three reasons. One of them is for our people within the firm. So especially if they are cross-functional, having to figure out different ways to do things and can be completely different approaches depending on what process silo they're involved in. How the firm is serving their clients. So when you look at firms using clients who are using different services within the firm, and if there are different processes, then the client is going to experience different ways of being served, and they may be being served well in each of those different areas of the firm, but there's a lack of consistency where it almost feels like you're dealing with different firms. And then the third way is leveraging technology. So if you're using similar technologies across those different areas within the firm, but you have different processes and ways of using them, then you're really limiting your ROI on that and not getting that full effectiveness across the organization. So that one firm approach, when we're thinking about our people, when we're thinking about our clients, when we're thinking about our technology, if we have process silos, that's going to get in the way. But if we can start to break those down, then we're really going to see the ability to make progress.
That's great. And it almost sounds like these process silos are a result of internal dynamics, not external dynamics. Is that while what you were suggesting is focusing on creating a one firm process that serves the client well, makes it easier for them to do business with us versus more difficult. So that's great. What are some tips, right? I said in my intro that whether you were listening to this podcast and you're a one office firm or whether you are a multi-office firm, firms are largely saying the same thing. How do we create more of a one firm approach? What tips can you offer our listeners in terms of, tactical ways that they can start to shift their culture to more of a one firm mindset?
Well, the first thing, I feel that all things begin with a strategic plan. So if you don't have a strategic plan, that's the first way to start, because really charting your way to being one firm starts there at the strategy level for the firm. And then the other part that we're seeing more and more is when it comes specifically to process improvement, which should obviously be part of your strategic plan. We are seeing operations really taking a role or taking the lead when it comes to process improvement. So instead of having process improvement opportunities bubble up from either tax or audit or client accounting services, and it kind of being determined by where the most pain is being felt or taking a whack-a-mole approach, we're seeing the implementation of an operations function or being integrated into an operations role where they're looking at it strategically across the firm to determine where is the greatest opportunity to evaluate processes and connect the dots between departments instead of just focus on one department specifically. And so that also helps with the prioritization of different process opportunities. It helps with the integration of the talent and the technology. And it's really continuing to elevate that operations role to provide that guidance and oversight to help move towards that one firm vision. So we are seeing firms have success with this. Of course, it's not overnight, nothing is, but that continual movement to having process improvement be a function of operations.
Have you seen an increase of even just the operations role within firms over the last several years?
Oh, absolutely. Not only an increase in the role, but just in the responsibility and the authority, within the operations department, and really looking at different ways to reskill and upskill our team members within that department. And to your point earlier, John, it's not just the big firms that are doing that. No matter what your firm size, you need to have that operational oversight. And it may be more of a blended position for firms that are smaller, where that person has, other roles and responsibilities. And it may be a more specific role in larger firms, but either way, there's an operational focus on process improvement and connecting those dots between different service areas.
Yeah. What are things that firms are able to do that, and maybe you'd call these benefits or positive results from taking on that one firm approach? What are the things firms are able to do when they break down those silos and they truly have that one firm mindset? They're working with that one firm process. What are some of the positive results you see firms experiencing?
You're able to create more capacity because it reduces duplication in the way that things are being done. Again, if our people can work more effectively, if we're using our technology more effectively, then we're going to create additional capacity. Our people are happier too when we are moving towards a one firm approach instead of different ways of doing things. I had mentioned earlier, it almost seems like working with different firms depending on what department you're working with. But the client is where there's a lot of benefit as well. So again, as we continue to move from being more compliance focused to more advisory and consultative, we're going to be offering different combinations of services to our clients. And if each of those service areas has a different way of doing things, the person who ultimately feels the impact is our client. So when we can move towards that one firm approach and really start breaking down those barriers, our client wins, and then we all win, right?
Yeah. Have you ever had a firm call you, say, Arianna, we really need you to come into our firm because it's a struggle having a one firm process that we've been using? No, it's never happened, right?
Never
It's
happened.
always, hey, there's different processes, there's different approaches, stressing our people out, it's causing them to work more. And there's such pressure right now to reduce that, to take care of our people,
Yeah.
as we should be. So as we start to wrap up here, Arianna, if our listeners are saying, yeah, we've been thinking about that for a while, we've been talking about this for a while, what's your recommended next step they take, or maybe their first step they take in this area?
I think it's important to have a conversation internally with leadership and really discuss, what is the commitment to a one firm approach? Where are you right now and where would you like to be? And then from there, it's, again, if you don't have a strategic plan, making sure that you have that, but that your movement towards that one firm approach is in alignment with that strategic plan. And then again, looking at your processes and saying, okay, where are our greatest opportunities for creating more consistency across the firm when it comes to processes, instead of just in one area, but across the firm. Many firms find that onboarding is a great place to start, whether it be client onboarding or employee onboarding. That would be an example of a great place to start. Billing is another great opportunity as well. So really looking at internal finance is an interesting one to explore as well when it comes to a one firm approach. But from there, have some conversation, then determine where some outside help could be beneficial, because oftentimes you don't know what you don't know, and being able to really leverage outside expertise or information from your peers and hearing what they're doing to make progress here are all valuable next steps. So that was certainly more than one next step, but those are the ones that I would recommend.
No, but I bet it was certainly our listeners' ears perked up through a few of those options you gave them, because all of those are true. Well, Arianna, it's always great having you on the podcast. Thank you so much. And for our listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. So if you enjoyed Arianna and I's conversation just now, just know we release new episodes weekly, Tuesday mornings, and we rotate the topics through leadership, talent, technology, process, and growth. And while that is a variety of topics, there is a common theme among all those topics, and that is they are critical to your firm's success. So as always, thanks for listening, and please go ahead and subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye. Thanks, Arianna.
Thanks, John.